All right, so first off, I'm going to say all praise to Yahweh in the name of his son, Yahweh Shai, in the name of the Holy Spirit. Also, I want to say double honors to the elders, apostles, and the bishops of Great Millstone. And also, I want to say shalom to the remnant and the elect of Israel. Lord willing, I'm of that number. Now, today is just going to be a back to the basics breakdown of Revelation chapter 13. Verses 16 or 15, or excuse me, 16 and 17. All right. Just a real basic breakdown. But first, I do want to give reason why, all right, we give the warnings that we do. All right. We don't just make up our own minds that we're going to do this. All right. This is something that the Lord put on his men to do. All right. So the Lord put his spirit on the men to go out there and warn his people. Okay. In the midst of doing that, yes, of all these other nations, the world is being put on notice, but all these things are happening for uh, the love of Jacob, for the love of Israel. Okay, the Lord gives us his mind, right? His wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the things that are, okay, and the reasonings behind them. So let's make a quick stop here in Ezekiel 3 and 17. Okay, it says, Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore hear the word at my mouth, and give them warning from me. So as you can hear in this verse, right, the Lord has made us watchmen. All right, what do watchmen do? They keep a lookout for. All right, and in this case, we could put a lookout for the things that the Lord tells us are happening. And we keep a watch on this world through the spirit and power. Okay, and we warn of things, all right, to come, and we warn of traps that might be, all right. Um, the ones that are against the Lord, okay, uh, Esau as a whole, all right, but specifically the top power of Esau, right, the top banking families, okay, they can cause things to happen that aren't necessarily real, all right. They can throw out diversions and things of this nature, but we point out all of these things, okay, that are there to distract you, that are there as actual traps, okay, and that show what's on the horizon. All right, but the Lord has made us watchmen. Okay, we look out for things that are on the horizon, and we are made watchmen unto the house of Israel. Again, pointing to Israel being His people. Okay. And also it goes on to say, therefore hear the word at my mouth. These aren't merely just human words. Right? These are things that are being made known unto us. And then in turn, right, since the Lord has made of us watchmen and given us his understanding, all right, we point these things out. Okay. So that 18th verse basically says, if we get the warning and we don't let you know, okay, we're going to have a problem. All right. Yes, you are going to have a problem for not taking heed, all right, to somebody. All right. And going to go look at what someone says. But ultimately, all right, if we don't give that warning, all right, we're going to have a problem. The Lord's going to have a problem with us not telling you. Okay. But the 19th verse, it says, yet if thou warn the wicked, and he turn not from his wickedness, nor from his wicked way, he shall die in his iniquity, but thou hast delivered thy soul. Okay, this is what we do. We do this to obey the Lord to the best of our ability, in hopes of being, okay, exempt from judgment, because there is very harsh judgment coming upon this earth. And what I mean when I say harsh, I don't mean well deserved. Right? Judgments that are coming from the Lord are well deserved, and they are harsh. Okay. All right. So one of these warnings that he told us to give are here in Revelation, or is here in Revelation 13, verses 16 to 17. This warning is about the MOTB. All right, that's an acronym for Mark of the Beast. Okay, you'll hear us refer to it as the micro C-hip because we have to speak in code these days to talk around the algorithm. Okay, but what that is the word micro, the letter C, and the word hip. You put these things together and you will get what we're speaking about here. All right, especially if you go and look at the examples of this thing that we're going to give after we read it. All right, so Revelation 13 and verse 16, it reads, "And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads." Verse 17 reads, "And that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name." So let's start here with 16. It's very key to know that this technology, this micro C-hip, is already in the earth. Right? A lot of people have already received this micro C-hip, this MOTB. So how can we say that and then also say that this prophecy here hasn't come to pass yet? It's because of this word causeth. All right, that word, when you look into the Greek, it goes back to it's the Greek word poieo, which means, right down in that definition, you'll see it means to make ready, and so at the same time to institute. Okay, meaning the ones that control the earth, the he that is right before causeth, right? Being that the earth is given into the hand of the wicked, which you can read about that in Job 9 and verse 24. Okay, this he has the power, right? This the top banking families have the power to causeth or to make ready, and so at the same time to institute. And just in a nutshell, what that means is, all right, certain things, certain crises can be caused, right, in order to garner certain reactions, in order that they can present their solution that they already had there in the first place. Right, they just had to figure out the right problems to get you to basically ask for a solution. And just lightweight, all right, you can look back at the end of 2019 going into 2020. All right, and whether that was a bought on by man or nature, okay, I don't know how you look at it, but whatever way, okay, the solution, all right, probably was already there. Okay, they were just already ready for it. I mean, usually when something like that happens and a solution like that is needed, it takes a lot of time. All right, way more time than how quickly that thing was presented. All right, so on a grander scale, all right, this micro C-hip, right, the solution that it is going to be presented as is already here. Okay, it's just the right crises have to come into play before the people basically ask for it. All right, so again, and he causeth all. And again, they can causeth all because they have the power to. All right, again, Job 9 and 24. Okay, when it says both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, this is speaking of perceived status or perceived lack of status, all right? From the rich to the poor and everything in between. Okay. Uh, you can look at this as the dash on a tombstone when it has the birth year and the last year and that little dash. They say that dash is what stands for your life in between those 2 years. All right. That and between small and great, rich and poor, free and bond is everything in between those two opposite sides of those spectrums. Okay. So again, perceived status or perceived lack of status. All right, you're going to be put in a position where you have to make a decision that's going to be presented in the very near future. All right, that mark is the micro C hip. All right, it is the MOTB. A couple of examples that we give especially on this channel. All right, for the one in the hand, you can look at Walletmore, Walletmor. That is one word. Go look at that technology, all right, and filter it through the scriptures. The other example of the one in the head, all right, just really quickly, is Neuralink, or Elon Musk's brain technology. Again, go look at that technology, filter it through the scriptures. And it's all right if you take note of the names, but just know who we're dealing with here. All right, Esau, Edom. They can always change the names, companies, whatever is surrounding this technology, and just put a different name on it. So it's very important that you go and look at this technology, okay, and understand that it is already here. All right, the difference is, again, that word causeth, okay, to make it mandatory. All right, let's move to verse 17. It says, "In that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name." So the name of the beast, the number of his name, okay, they, although they are different things, they are synonymous because they stand for uh uh this man, his dominion, okay, his way of life, his rule, okay. um if you receive that mark, that is showing that you have his name on you, or you have his number on you, again showing who you belong to. That's why when you go into that word for mark, it is charagma, and within that definition it says, hold on, let me go in here, hold on real quick, just so I don't get the exact wording, uh just so I don't get the exact wording messed up here. Charagma, okay, here's the word for it, the word for mark. It is charagma, right? And it says stamp, an imprinted mark. It says, of the mark stamped on the forehead or the right hand, as the badge of the followers of the Antichrist, which means the ones that are against the Messiah. All right, so if you receive this, you are against the Messiah, because we are, again, reading a warning. All right. Um, so if you have a badge of a follower of the Antichrist, that means they just gave you a badge, like, here, good servant, take this badge, basically, right? But also under that, it says the mark branded upon horses, because it acts as a brand, right? Which goes back to that verse 17 there, where it says, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name, right? That is a branding. A branding can act as a name. Have you heard of name brand? Okay. Or the number of his name, all right? So this all shows who has ownership of your heart or your mind, because the word heart goes back to la'ab, which means your mind. All right, you're showing who has ownership, who you follow. All right, so if you do not receive their badge or their mark or the charagma or the MOTB, all right, you're not going to be able to buy or sell, except if you have the mark. So if you don't have the mark, you're not going to be able to do that, right? How else do you get the things that are necessary for a man to live? All right, food on your table, clothing on your back, a roof over your head, buying or selling. If you don't receive this thing, you are not going to be able to participate in society the way that you have been doing. All right. And all of us are used to going to someone else in need of what we, or in want of what we need, or in need of anything, right? So we're all caught up in the system. It's just some people, all right, a very small number, have the Lord with them. Okay, this is the benefit of being the elect and the remnant. All right, we are hopeful in these days because we don't know exactly who is who, but you best believe, all right, the Lord has his remnant and elect here. All right, so you have to filter yourself through these scriptures. You have to examine yourself if you are in the faith or not. All right, and one way is knowing what the MOTB is. Did the Lord open that up in your mind? All right. Did he tell you what it was? Are you convinced of it? All right. Are you, what's going to happen when they present this thing? All right. So that was just a short of it. Just a quick back to the basics of this warning that we find here in Revelation 13 verses 16 and 17, and why we even give these warnings. So I hope that was edifying and clear. And with that, again, I would like to say all praise to Yahweh in his name of his son, Yahweh Shai, in the name of the Holy Spirit. Double honors to my elders, apostles, and the bishops of Great Millstone, otherwise known as GMS for short. And also I want to say, again, a shalom to the remnant and the elect of Israel. Lord willing, I'm of that number. And Lord willing, we'll see you in the next video. Shalom.